Good evening. I would like to call the meeting of the Curriculum and Student Success Committee of the Portland Board of Public Education to order at 7:30 on November 3rd, 2025. We are meeting online via Zoom. I am Julianne Opperman, Chair of this committee and District Representative for 3, and I'm joined with, from our committee, my member Lena, member Usira. Member Bondo is not coming. She's has to be elsewhere. And we have an incredibly rich and interesting agenda coming up. So in school climate and culture, updating in elementary, updating in secondary, and then PBIS and behavior response protocol. We will hear lots. So with that, I turn it over to you, Dr. Proctor. So you introduce your team.
Good evening, everyone. So glad to be here with you all. And I'll let the team introduce themselves. I'm happy to be here and to facilitate our meeting. Our team is really wonderful. They've planned and put together some great information for us to discuss. And I'll let Alice take over and Joanna do introductions, and then I'm going to work on presenting the slides for you guys.
Alice Buckley, Secondary Director of Culture and Climate, and I'm super excited to present where we are at this point in the year.
And I'm Joanna Frankel. I'm the Director of Elementary Culture and Climate.
Thank you to both of you.
Can everyone see the slides? Excellent. Well, I will turn it over to the team. And I'll just do the intro to say, that we're going to focus again on strategic initiatives that are centered really around our SEL curriculum, culture, climate. That's 3.1 and 3.2. And I will start with elementary. Joanna?
Great, thanks. So yeah, really excited to update you on the committee about the work we've been doing. And so just a reminder that both of these initiatives, 3.1 and 3.2, are to increase the capacity of schools to create and implement that should say whole school systems, SEL curriculum and relationships that promote a joyful, supportive, and safe school culture. And we're in launch phase this year. The strategic initiative of 3.1, which is focused on elementary schools, is around the implementation of our new social emotional learning, or SEL curriculum, which is called Purposeful People. And just a reminder that I've been in front of this committee before as we made this selection of this curriculum. You might hear it sometimes referred to as Character Strong. So I just want to clarify that Character Strong is the company that produces the Purposeful People curriculum, which is the elementary social emotional learning curriculum. And we have some measures to assess our implementation in this first year of using Purposeful People curriculum. 2 of them are what we call implementation goals, and one is what we call an outcome goal. So the implementation goals are measuring how well or with fidelity we're implementing the curriculum. And those 2 goals are that 90% of classrooms, elementary school classrooms, are teaching the weekly lessons with using the Purposeful People curriculum. And I'll talk in a minute about how we're measuring this. The second is that 85% of students are actively engaged in those Purposeful People lessons. Those are being measured through 3 times a year school-based walkthroughs. And so those walkthroughs are being led by our culture and climate coordinators for the schools that have those positions in partnership with their building leaders. And so those Walkthroughs are following a similar cadence to what teachers have sort of become accustomed to with the walkthroughs for our literacy curriculum. The third goal is the outcome goal, which is that 85% of students will report students treat each other well on our school climate survey. And a little bit of background on that. So we use a PBIS school climate survey in grades 3 through 5 in elementary schools. There's a question on that survey that asks students to rate students treat each other well on sort of a 4-point scale. Our baseline for that right now is 54%, meaning 54% of those students are reporting students treat each other well, most of the time or always. We want to hit the national norm, which is 85%. And so we're gonna increase that percentage over 4 years. So the outcome goal is really based on the theory that if we are using the Purposeful People curriculum with fidelity, students will have increased social skills, they'll have increased problem-solving skills, and we will be building a positive culture in which they feel like students treat each other well. So early data on this is very positive. Walkthroughs have been underway. I would say walkthroughs are about 75% complete at this point in the elementary schools. So I don't have final data to share with you yet, but the early data is really showing that we're gonna, I would actually not just say meet, but exceed those first 2 targets around student engagement and use of the curriculum. The outcome measure with using the student climate survey is not going to be available to the spring because we don't use that measure in the fall. I'm hearing, just in addition to like the walkthrough data that we have, I'm anecdotally just very, very positive that teachers are reporting that it's very easy to implement, that they really like it, that students are engaged. And so all signs are pointing in the right direction here. And then just in addition to that, I know I had reported to this committee before about our selection process of this curriculum. And so additionally, we're finding that like because of the robust selection process and how many staff were involved in that, it's really was a huge benefit. Okay, so just a couple things about our implementation efforts. So we know that adult learning theory is that you can't just do a one-time PD and expect people to generalize that information. So we are having sort of a cycle of PD around the Purposeful People curriculum. We had a big training during August Institute where we had trainers from the company come and trained all staff. So not just teachers, but ed tech specialists, related service providers, everybody got trained on the curriculum. And then we have 4 additional trainings that are being led by the culture and climate coordinators with content from the company. We also have a coaching package. So myself and the culture and climate coordinators have quarterly coaching meetings with a rep from the company. I already talked about walkthroughs, but just that we sort of took an existing walkthrough structure that people were accustomed to and then sort of fit our SEL walkthrough structure into that. I do want to note the parent universities. We ran 2, one for multilingual families with the support of our family and community specialists, one for English-speaking families. And so that was a chance for families to learn about the curriculum. And then we have 3 schools that are piloting another component from Character Strong, which is a tier 2 program. So that's sort of a suite of curriculum and materials for students who might need additional instruction. Next steps. So we're continuing with the walkthroughs and the data reviews. Opportunity for staff feedback is actually going to come next week. So I have an initial kind of input form for staff to just share with us, how it's going so far. And so that if there are areas we sort of need to course correct, we'll have a sense of that. Along with that, revisions to the pacing guide. So we had our best laid plans that we made in August, and now we run the curriculum and we see if there are adjustments we need to make. I've got it on my list to make a recorded version of the Parent University that will go up on the Parent University website for families that couldn't attend in person. Reviewing those 3 schools that are piloting the Tier 2 program. We're having sort of ongoing check-ins with them so that we can start to think about any decisions around scaling that up to more schools for next year. I know budget season is, honestly, it feels like it should be a while away, but I know it's going to be just around the corner. So starting to think about, the ongoing investment. This curriculum is a license-based investment. So it's, it's not like you buy kits of things and then you have them. This is an ongoing investment for us. So starting to think about that. And then obviously in the spring, reviewing our climate survey data for that outcome measure. I'm going to turn it over to Alice.
Okay. I'm here to talk about 3.2, which again is increasing the capacity of schools to create and implement whole school systems, SEL curriculum, and relationships that promote a joyful, supportive, and safe school culture. The work this year was implementing a codified advisory model. Codifying, of course, means that that is how we are going to get equity in the delivery of our SEL curriculum across the schools. The curriculum that we're using at the secondary level is a base curriculum. And we are using that as a tier 1 strategy across all the secondary schools. And we are pairing that with the PPS circle protocol that was developed in a collaboration with Cumberland County. And so that is an ongoing strategy that we know is going to take some time, because there definitely is a wide range of skill across the educators feeling comfortable using a circle protocol. How do I go to the next slide? So we have a strategic plan, goals to measure implementation of our advisory framework district-wide. We have 3 implementation goals and 1 outcome goal. So the first is 100% of our classrooms are teaching monthly SEL lessons with the base curriculum. And the way that we are measuring that is with monthly advisory grades. The grades are pass-fail. The purpose really is of grades is to put an accountability measure in place, both for educators, students, and families. Coming in this year, one of the things that I was hearing from a lot, or we were hearing from a lot of secondary students, especially high school students, is that advisory didn't count. And so that they didn't see the value in advisory. And so grades and attendance are one way that we are drawing back students to just get them to come into the classroom, and then building the nested community through an engaging advisory program that we hope will keep them there and keep them engaged. 100% of the advisory teachers are trained on facilitation of effective and engaging advisory practices. And we are measuring that also by 3 district walkthroughs per year. At the secondary level, we have completed 100% of our beginning of the year walkthroughs across all the high schools and the middle schools. And 100% of students will engage in a cell-free educational experience. And we're measuring this through our Swiss data. And then a decrease in the rate of chronic absenteeism by 30% with and that is over a three-year target. Our early data from our beginning of the year advisory walkthroughs is also very promising. In more than 80% of classrooms observed, teachers clearly prioritize personal relationships with students. In almost 80% of classrooms observed, there was evidence of clear objectives and structures. And almost 40% of classrooms observed students were engaged in creative or flexible activities. And the way that we measured this was through a rubric that was created from best practices nationwide that you would see in an effective advisory program. The rubric was shared with campus leaders in August for their feedback, with the idea being that in any advisory class, you would not see all 8 of the components in one observation snapshot, but that you would see at least 1 or 2 of them. You would expect to see personalized relationships always, but then you would see at least one of the other components, whether there be an academic focus, creative and flexible activities, was there student voice, and I'm happy to share the rubric with the committee if you'd like to see it.
That would be good, thanks.
So steps to support an equitable implementation. This too was a multi-pronged approach. The first was to optimize our IC functionalities, IC being the software that the district uses to for teachers to input grades and attendance. So we first wanted to make sure that across all the secondary schools, teachers were monitoring attendance and were inputting grades, and that we were providing the new Portland Public Schools Circle protocol. Again, I know that we mentioned this in our earlier meeting, but schools such as Casco Bay or King that already had a circle protocol that was well established in their school, they did not need to change and use this protocol, but we wanted to make sure that everyone at least understood the importance of circling up and that why we do that practice to create a sense of community and belonging. And then to provide monthly high quality digital citizenship lessons so that the students are future ready, and also to support our positive implementation of our cell phone free educational experience. And again, trying to build alignment with our elementary schools, that our walkthroughs were structured with the same cadence as the ELA walkthroughs that were established last year. And our ongoing steps for this initiative are continue with the walkthroughs. We will do our next set of walkthroughs after winter break, and then again at the end of the year. Provide opportunities for staff feedback midway through the year. Review base module sequencing and pacing guides. We've already done that once because it after the first month of implementation and after the CCCs really digging into the modules, realistically for the amount of time that many of the secondary schools have allotted per week, if we wanted the modules to be delivered with a fidelity and to truly have an impact, they needed to be broken into two different advisory classes. And so rather than just staying the course and saying, no, we started with 2 modules, they have to get these done, we wanted the students to truly engage with the topic and have an opportunity to dive deeper. So we reduced the modules from 2 modules to 1 module based on feedback from the culture and climate coordinators and campus administrators. Throughout this semester and then also next semester, we will be reviewing instructional minutes to make sure that for next year that we're set up for a equitable experience across the secondary schools. And then at the end of the year, a spring review of our climate survey data.
Great. So I'm just going to do a couple updates on some other culture-related pieces. So just a brief update for you on the behavior response protocol. So we were with you in September to talk about the work that had come out of the Progressive Discipline Task Force. And so we have launched these protocols. We had time in grade spans during August Institute for staff to kind of start to dig into those protocols. Elementary schools have done some revisiting of the behavior response protocol along with verbal de-escalation training in October. And Alice, I don't know if you want to speak to that at the secondary level.
Yes. So our the secondary leaders and the secondary culture and climate coordinators were reviewing their discipline infractions and their Swiss data at the end of October, and then their redelivery or revisiting of the verbal de-escalation training would be based on the data specific to their schools, because each of the schools are having, they may be having different challenges. And so we want, when we go back and revisit it, we want the training to be tailored to the needs of the schools. And so all secondary
You went on mute, Alice. Somehow you're muted.
Must have touched the.
There we go. Sorry. All secondary schools are revisiting the de-escalation training based on their specific Swiss data. The CCCs will be creating role plays based on incidents that have actually happened this semester, so that teachers have an opportunity to really dig into different verbal de-escalation techniques that could result in a different outcome for students.
Thanks, Alice. And then a couple other steps. We had a final meeting of the Progressive Discipline Task Force with Dr. Atkinson-Duina and Dr. Ahmed to just get any input from folks who were involved in that process on implementation. And then a next step is to have there's a family facing version of the behavior response protocol that will be going up on the PPS website. And then just to touch on PBIS, which is positive behavior interventions and supports. So we continue to utilize that framework for both tier 1 and advanced tiers. And I want to just name what I mean when I say that. So PBIS is a tiered framework. It's based on a public health model. So tier 1 means what we do proactively for everyone, for all students, for all staff, for all families, to promote a positive school culture and positive outcomes for all. And when we talk about advanced tiers, what we mean is what are the interventions or supports for those who might have greater risk or greater need. And so if you think about that kind of from a public health perspective, which is what this comes from, it's like we all go to the dentist and get our teeth cleaned. That's tier 1. When I have a cavity, which I do sometimes, I have to go back to the dentist and get a little bit of a special treatment. But I still am brushing and flossing my teeth, right? That's tier 1. And then if you're like me, you've had to have a root canal or a cap or something like that, you have to go to a special person. You might need an endodontist or a specialist. That's sort of tier 3. So that's just an analogy to help us understand that this is based on that same idea.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And so just a note, I mean, you could, if you wanted to dive into the data, there's decades of research studies about the positive outcomes of PBIS, or positive behavior interventions and supports. I like this graphic because it just shows sort of 3 of the big buckets of impact. So one is improved student outcomes, which is not just about social, emotional, and behavioral outcomes, which a lot of it is, but there's also research that shows improved academic outcomes and performance when you utilize the PBIS framework. Reduced bullying, et cetera, the list goes on. The second bucket is about reduced exclusionary discipline practices. So these are things like suspension and expulsion, which we know we want to reduce. And there's evidence around reduced use of restraint and seclusion, which also is important to us as a school district. And the last bucket is around improved teacher outcomes. So there's a lot of research that shows that this is positive not just for students, but for staff as well, including in the areas of perceived teacher efficacy, school safety, and general school climate. So that's why we do it. Again, this is a multi-tiered system. And so in addition to this work that we're doing at the universal level, which includes the use of BASE and advisory and purposeful people, those are all things we're doing universally. We also are really building our capacity at those other tiers. And so there's actually a mistake on the slide. It should say 7 schools are enrolled in the main DOE's advanced tiers cohort. All 3 middle schools and 4 of our elementary schools applied and were accepted to this cohort that's run by the main DOE, and it provides training and technical support up in Augusta and also remotely for our schools to build robust systems. And some of the practices that we use are something called check-in, check-out, which is an evidence-based practice for students that provides them a staff mentor, as well as additional behavioral feedback throughout the day. It's sort of the strongest tier 2 behavior intervention there is in terms of the research. Many of our schools are implementing something called 2x10, which just means that a staff member spends 2 minutes a day for 10 days with a particular student. That's not contingent. So meaning it's not because the student did something right or did something wrong. It's just because it's a evidence-based relationship building strategy that really can add to a student's sense of belonging in their school. So we have many schools that are using that strategy. And then an exciting part of being in this cohort is that it's a 2-year cohort. Schools are in it for 2 years. And in year 2, staff involved are trained to do what's called a simple FBA, or functional behavior analysis, which is a tool that helps us to understand behavior in students, why they're doing what they're doing, and then helps us more accurately create interventions for those students. And this is really helpful because we want to build our staff capacity to be able to use these kinds of tools. And then just last thing is that all of our schools have teams that work on this. So it's not one person holding this. It really is a team approach where the team uses data to make decisions and has sort of all the expertise around the table to serve our students. And then just an update because in the past, we have come to the board to report out on what's called the TFI, the Tiered Fidelity Inventory, which is a measure of fidelity to the PBIS framework. That's not part of our reporting for the strategic plan this year, but I just wanted you to know it hasn't gone away. So we are still using the TFI, although the National PBIS Center has launched a new version of the tool. It's called the 3.0. And Alice and I have both used the 3.0 with schools this year. It's a more robust tool. It's got a high bar, but we're meeting it. And part of the new guidance around the 3.0 is that once a school reaches fidelity, you can drop down to just using the tool once a year. In the past, PPS has used the TFI twice a year. So we'll move to a once a year model because almost all of our schools have reached fidelity at this point. There it is.
Thank you. That was so much, Alice.
Thank you.
It was excellent.
Thank you, Alice and Joanna. Really great information. Thank you for sharing it. I'll turn it over back to board member Opperman to guide us through a discussion and questions for this portion. And then I wanted to, open up also that if there were any questions that you could facilitate how we would revisit any discussions that were needed to be revisited from last time. Also, there was no public comment.
There was no public.
There was
correct.
Okay, I checked.
It was.
I checked the participants, and it looked like there was one attendee.
Yes, Claire, did you want to make a comment? Put your hand up. Claire often comes. We appreciate her listening carefully every time. No, you don't want to comment on anything? All right. We'll see you another time. She's very almost religious about coming, which is awesome.
Okay,
That's
great.
what we need in the community.
Yes, just wanted to make sure that there was no public comment.
That up. Maya, Yusra, any thoughts, any questions? There's a lot there. Go ahead, Maya.
Thank you so much for that presentation. Joanna, I have a question for you. I really enjoyed your explanation of PBIS from the sort of public health analogy. That was really helpful for me. But I was wondering what review is being done at the school level, at the building level, of how the PBIS, protocol is being implemented in the school, because I feel like from my own personal observation and then just in discussion with community members, it seems like sometimes it gets reduced to, a reward system and like handing out tokens or bucks or prize box or something. And it feels very much in conflict with, teaching foundational social emotional skills and kindness and all of those things if the reason to do it is to get a prize, which doesn't sound like that's what you were talking about when you were describing the model. So I'm wondering what review is being done to make sure that schools are taking that approach.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the concept of a school-wide acknowledgement system or a classroom acknowledgement system is a practice it's a common practice within PBIS. And I think it's not unique to our schools that when people hear about it, think about it, talk about it, it's about the prize box or the whatever the thing is. I think that's pretty common. But I think we have a couple measures here. I mean, I think we have the TFI, first of all, which goes through all the components of a robust system. And so that helps guide teams in evaluating themselves about what is or is not in place. So that's one thing. And then the second thing is that we just, have ongoing coaching with our PBIS teams, a lot of which I do. And I think also, Maya, though, part of what you're getting at is a communication issue as well, because it may be that all people are hearing about is the bucks or the prize bucks or whatever. It's not quite as exciting to like talk about, the back end of things. Like, we all have a matrix that spells out what our expectations are in different areas of the school, and we use it to teach after every vacation, and like those sorts of things that I think are less visible. So I think that's another piece.
Thank you.
I have a question. And I think, Joanna, I think it's on your part. I was wondering about parent university. I'm pleased that information is going to go up on the website, and I will, if there's any way, facilitate getting that up faster, because I think it's useful. I just wondered if there would be any other opportunities, Zoom or live, for uh, engagement with parents on this. And I guess that's the first part of the question. The second part is, all of this involves parent engagement. I mean, whether it's the cell phones or bullying or whatever. I just was wondering, and this, you and Alice can talk about that perhaps. How what would you say about it?
Well, Alice, do you want me to just answer the parent university question, and then you can talk about secondaries and the other pieces? So yep. So then in terms of the parent university piece, that's on my plate, on my to-do plate, is making this recorded session that would basically be me talking over the slides that people could access from the website. So I think from a whole district perspective, I think that'll be our next step. But I also know that schools are at the school level are having their own communication around the purposeful people curriculum. The curriculum comes with a whole bunch of family newsletters and other resources like that. And I know people have been incorporating it into like back to school nights and communications that they're having at the school level as well.
Excellent. I think that's really, I mean, it's key, the connection back and forth to everything. Alice.
I could just say that, having just completed the beginning of the year TFI across the secondary schools, an area of growth for all schools was the parent engagement, and also the student engagement in just having a voice in the expectations of the school. And recently, Lincoln piloted I think just a really innovative way to organically gather a kind of a pulse point to see how well students are internalizing Lincoln's school-wide expectations. At the beginning of the year, parent conferences, each parent got during the conference a blue ticket that on the back, the students had to put in their own words what were the Lincoln school-wide expectations, and then they had to explain it to their parents, like what perseverance meant, what does responsibility meant, and then as they were leaving, they put it in a bucket for some sort of drawing. And they had almost 100% of parents who came to the conference participate in this ticket activity, which gave the parents an opportunity to then ask the question, okay, so what does perseverance look like at home? What does responsibility look like at home? So really this really nice kind of connection of what we're teaching at school and what we want you to also see this at home. And
Uh-oh.
sorry, my bracelet completely locked. If you can still hear me, that's great.
I can hear you just fine, and you're
It's
moving, you're
just,
not frozen. You look good.
just again, this really nice connection that parents could see that what we're doing at school is also what you're doing at home, and this is how your child is making the connection between what we are both trying to teach them together. So just a shout out to the work at Lincoln, because they're really doing some really innovative things to get parent and student engagement this year.
Fantastic. I just, a side comment, I was meeting with a few teachers at King this past week, and I asked them, I said, how's it going this year? And they said, much better. Attendance is up. It's just in general, I mean, there are issues always, but that it felt better this year, which was a nice thing to hear, and all. So, before I ask any more questions, anyone else have any questions? I mean, I could ask questions. I I want to thank you for the clarity of getting all those anachronisms out, because I they're always that's the thing that always hangs me up from meeting to meeting and all, and it really um, I think it helps also the community, if any, for particularly the people who do pay attention to these meetings. I think that was all I had right now. It sounds, I mean, you moving in the right direction, in a lot of ways. Um, you know, I think I'm interested to see really how much through Swiss and through your walkthroughs, how much the protocol that this discipline protocol, how much is actually working at the teacher level, and at I don't know if you're collecting that kind of data to see where, is the buck still getting passed? Sometimes it has to be, but that would be just something would be interesting to know, I think. And the other thing is, Jesse, since you're here, Mr. Applegate, what do you think with your people with the special ed situation? Do these protocols, are you finding them from your people that these are positive moves so far, or it's still moving in?
I mean, I think it would be hard for me to generalize too much on it, but I do think that um, I definitely feel like we're moving in a direction where, the premise of these frameworks is to support all students who are in the general education classroom, which of course includes, as we talked about last week, many of our kids with IEPs. So I certainly am aware of these some of these approaches and frameworks supporting those students. I've definitely heard some, positive things from staff about how it, sort of supports engagement and inclusion for sure. I don't have any,
Oh, no, I know.
hard data, but
I
yes,
got,
that's
that's,
my general feeling. Yeah, for sure.
okay, that's perfect. That's
Yeah.
wonderful. I think, I mean, that's kind of be as we go on through the year, and as you get your different data collection going back from everybody on all topics, would be wonderful to hear. Is there anything that Maya or you want to talk about other than this particular protocol? No, you're good for this. You had a long meeting this is the second meeting of the evening for all of us. And so it is quite a bit of work to keep going. I want to thank you all. I appreciate all of your work. You do a lot, and it's appreciated, even if we do a quiz and drill and all that other stuff that some of us do. We appreciate what you do. And I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Mike. And a second? Okay, I'll do it. Okay, thank you. We are adjourned at whatever hour it is. At 8:16, which is very nice. Thank you all. And please, if you have some questions for us or ways we can help with some of these things, please, please, please contact us because we're there for you as you are for us. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.